Today's guest is Rob Turman. He's the Director of Consulting Services at CGI Federal. His main focus is on connecting CGI experts with the Department of State stakeholders so they can bring them smart solutions that work. When I asked him what else I should include in his introduction, he highlighted his two awesome sons and his amazing wife, but he also talked a lot, and I'm sure we'll hear about it, how he's a big, huge fan of the Nebraska Cornhuskers, and hopefully that doesn't immediately make somebody turn off the podcast because they're a rival. But and Rob and I have had many conversations. We share a passion for bourbon. It took forever for me to hit record because we were talking bourbon again. So, but thanks, Rob, for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
So, for people who haven't met you, had a chance to have conversations with you, talk a bit about your background, where you're from, who you are, and what you do.
All right, long time ago. Well, I grew up. I would say a Navy brat, but I didn't get to experience all of the fun stuff that should come with it, like experiencing new towns and, going overseas and exotic locations and so on and so forth. We were in Norfolk, Virginia for pretty much my dad's entire career. I grew up in Chesapeake, Virginia. And then when he was retiring from the Navy after 20 years, we moved back up to Maryland, right outside of Annapolis, to where he was stationed at the Pentagon. So I grew up a Navy brat, but my father was from the Midwest. He was from Nebraska, so that's where my Husker tie comes from. My very first memory of watching a college football game, probably a football game overall, was in my bedroom on one of those really long but like that big TV screens that's black and white, just sitting on my dresser, and it was Nebraska versus Florida State. I want to say in 94, 93 and 94, where for any Husker fans out there know we got robbed. We should have won the national championship. They called a phantom block in the back on a punt return for a touchdown that we had. And then we still missed a field goal as time expired that could have won the game. So, but we were like 17-point underdogs. That was amazing. Anyways, enough of old Nebraska football games. So I grew up a Husker fan, high school in Maryland. Ended up getting into Nebraska, so I went out to Nebraska for college. UVA was my safety school for anyone that from the area that happened to go there. I loved it out there. Man, people are so nice in Nebraska. And I had a theory when I was like the first two people I really met out in Nebraska. Both of them ended up living with me at some point in time when I was out there. My theory basically is that there's not a density of people.
No. Yeah.
So they're all willing to talk, and they're actually truly interested in what other people have to say. Which makes everyone kind of feel special, which builds the bonds. It's kind of, feeds itself. Anyways, that's why I feel like the Midwest, smaller towns that happen in Nebraska, Iowa, Kansas. That's why you get such nice people out there. But I loved it. I would move back out there.
It's in Lincoln, right?
University of Nebraska is in Lincoln. There's other like tiny schools like University of Nebraska, Omaha.
Is Lincoln the capital? I'm showing my age.
Lincoln is the capital.
Yeah. It's a small capital in comparison to many places.
For sure. Like Omaha is actually the bigger city, I guess if you could call it that. It's a city. It's a bigger city out of the two, but on game days, of course, I think the stat is on game days the stadium would it be equivalent to the third largest town in the state, when they pack that full of 100,000 people. But yeah, no, I loved it out there. Came back out. My parents were on the East Coast still. They never left Maryland. They're still in the same house they were when we first moved up for my dad to be stationed at the Pentagon. So I ended up moving back out after college, and I had dreams. Well, in college, I went for accounting.
Okay.
Thankfully, I've never spent a day doing actual accounting, even though I do support Department of State's financial management organization, the CGFS, Bureau of Comptroller and Global Financial Services. But they hire smart people to actually do the accounting work. I used to stay on the system side. And I had dreams of moving back and getting a government job working at GAO. I thought that was, this is gonna be great. I'll do that. But they weren't hiring. So my dad had already retired from the Navy at this point in time, and he was working at a bunch of different companies that just M&A happened one after another, and eventually was at what was it? I think it was L3 Communications. Like I was going to say Coleman, but I think that was a previous company. So L3 Communications. He got me a job there. I was working as a financial analyst, so kind of close to accounting, but not having to know GAAP and stuff. And I did that for about a year, but they were moving their headquarters out to Chantilly. And my boss at the time, Bob Carroll is his name, super awesome. He was like, "Do you want to be working out of Chantilly?" And I'm not really, because we were at Crystal City at the time. He's like, "All right, I'm gonna help you find another job." So he did help me. Some of his former employees that had moved on, one of them went to Stanley Associates, and he got me an interview there. They hired me, and I've been there ever since. So we're now CGI. CGI acquired Stanley, probably maybe even 10 years ago now. I'm not sure. It's been a while. It's definitely way longer that I've been at CGI than I ever was at Stanley. Since I've been here for about 16 years, in that time, I've had many different roles at the company. I started, like I said, in the financial analysis kind of space, a lot of Excel, PowerPoints, or not so much PowerPoints, but definitely a lot of Excel at the time. And once I started to understand how our financials worked, got into pricing, which is something you hinted earlier tonight was not something you were super passionate about. And from pricing into more broader proposal work, and this is like over years, like this isn't just like, in one, but broader proposal work, some business operations support, which is kind of like KPIs for running a business, and then into capture management. And when COVID started, I didn't really have much of a background in program delivery, getting yelled at by a client that you're not making your deliverables, so on and so forth. You need to kind of cut your teeth in that stuff. I feel to continue to move up in the organization, you have to understand and respect how a business is run, how to serve a client to be able to do anything else in your career. So I asked to move into that role. CGI allowed me to do it, so I'm super thankful in that. And I've been serving the comptroller since. Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty interesting. So that's unusual for our friends here in the DC area, that you are still at the same company for so many years. Is that like a built-in loyalty thing you have? Just the moving around helped, right? I know that if your role changes, you can gain new interest, new things.
Right. I think there was a lot to what you just said there, that it wasn't old. And I'll also say this about my movements. While that last one was me asking, none of the others were. All of the others were, "Rob, we want you to do this." So we've talked about in some of our other meetings about how the power of saying yes, or the value of saying yes.
Yeah.
So I said yes, but I don't really know if I had an option in any of those cases. So, but it did help, right? It did help with my not getting bored with things, not getting too comfortable, and I've had opportunities to leave. So I really got to assess. One thing I do know is the grass isn't always greener. With CGI, a lot of people come back after they leave. So it's clear that a lot of people experience other opportunities, other really good companies. I know it's not like we're the best, but a lot of other really high-end companies that everyone's ever heard of, and they still come back. So it's not like any one thing is perfect for everybody. And I'd also say, if I'm going to be vulnerable for a minute, that is probably a little bit of fear in the unknown. Like, it's not there. When people have resigned from CGI, and I've talked to them about kind of their thought process and doing it, I have in some cases commended them of being brave and trying something new. If it doesn't work, you always got a spot back here. But So I would say it's a little bit of loyalty. It's probably a lot of fear. And it's a lot of the fact that I've been able to do so many different things and try, learn new skills, meet new people, network, and grow. And CGI has given me all those opportunities, so why would I?
Well, and they have an amazing reputation in our area, in our consulting world, if you will. I mean, they're in the DC area, they're well respected, right? And that's, if that was different, that also might have changed your opinion, right?
Yeah, like, are you saying like I'm not going to name a company.
Yeah, let's not name somebody, but there are other companies that are less respected for a variety of reasons, right? Some of them still exist. Some of them definitely don't exist anymore.
So you're saying like if company X couldn't win work because no one thinks they're capable.
Right, or it didn't have the right culture, a good
Right.
like CGI has got a lot going for it. I know a lot of people work for CGI. They love the culture, they love the work that they do. They consistently get more work, right? They give their employees opportunities. They let them do leadership development program. Right, there's a lot that CGI is doing right as a company, and so I think that also could play into, if I was at a company like that, not leaving, right?
Right. We do have a career-minded organization.
So I'm not trying to recruit for CGI per se. I have no idea what roles they have, but in the grand scheme of things in the DC area, I would say that could lead into the uniqueness that you actually have of not having jumped around through a couple different companies in the DC area.
For sure, for sure.
So the work you're doing now,
yeah.
How was there a method you used for education, right? You had an accounting degree,
right?
But you're doing something completely different today. So how was it the various roles that you took as you went? I mean, what or is it you have to learn it quickly as you get into the role?
So it's like kind of like, what's the recipe that went into how I was able to do those things?
Yeah, I mean, you're certainly successful in doing it. You're doing well, and CGI likes you, and they're doing well.
Certainly hope so.
But so,
gosh darn it, people like me.
And like you said, a lot of times, except for the one you're in now, the opportunity comes up, and you don't ever know if you're allowed to say no, so you say yes because it's always positive to say yes.
Right.
You still got to figure out how to do the work. So as you've gone through these various different roles, how did you learn how to do that work?
It definitely builds on itself, I would say. First of all, I don't know if I was ever built to be an accountant. I just had this, going to work for GAO made sense. So it's kind of like, what was that? The other guys, Will Ferrell was the accountant for Law and Order or whatever. It just made sense for me. But I don't know if I would have been good at it. So and I don't think my grades were that good either. But like I said, it kind of builds on it. So it started with me being a financial analyst and understanding the mechanics that go into a profitable business, not necessarily what it takes to run the business, but what a well-run business looks like on a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
To translating that to, well, what does that look like on a deal, right? And then from the deal to, okay, well then what's the thought process and strategy that we have to go to get to this, to get to this end result here that we want to propose to the client. And then kind of stepping up a level and look at a broader, all right, well, what do we need to do to have a good, well-run business? Like I said, those KPIs at a business unit level, like pipeline statistics, number of, which is like what does your backlog look like? What does your open pipeline? What does your P-win on all those deals look like? Are you diversifying your pursuits by going after different types of work, different clients, and all the other stuff? And once I had so much of that background, I understood how CGI did things. So you can replace CGI with any company name, really, but you understand how the corporation operates and how they kind of assess their deals and their potential deals, their programs and their potential deals. Then you can kind of translate that to my current role, which, like, the very vague statement I gave you of I bring solutions to the client, but I've worked my network well enough across CGI that I understand who is where and what they do, so that if a client says I've got such and such problem, then I'm going to go and talk to those people and see if they have solutions for them. It seems very basic, but when you're on a program team for 10, 15 years, you're so insular, you're so siloed that you don't know who those people are, and you need to ask 3 people to get to those people. So I've really enjoyed that. We have a recent example of where we were able to I'm trying to not be so specific again, but so finding my words here, but we knew the client had a problem with identifying something, and AI is the buzz right now, so we're like, well, let's see if we can get AI to solve that problem. So we met with our folks down in Lafayette, Louisiana, put together a little bit of a demo on how we could potentially solve that problem. Client went and visited our location. They loved it immediately. Like, we need that. How do we get it? So it was awesome to kind of see that result happen in a very short order of we have problem. Here's a newfangled solution that potentially solve that problem. Let's show it to you. Boom, it's done. But anyways, I kind of tangent off of your initial question, but I do think the recipe, as I said earlier, was just how they built on top of each other and eventually set the stage for me through networks, understanding how CGI does their business, to being able to get where I am now and apply all that knowledge, all that background to the client's problems.
Well, I think that's unique, even amongst many of the people we know, that you have. There are not a lot of people I know who have worked in a variety of roles like you have, and have learned all the different parts of the business and can say, here's how it works, right? There are consulting firms that help companies figure out how to work it. Right. But like most big companies, and I would say CGI is, I don't know, are they considered big, or are they still medium? I don't know. They're big. Yeah, they're big.
We are 90,000 people worldwide.
Yeah, that's big. And they tend to get siloed, like you were saying. They tend to get siloed in their areas, and they don't know, like you're describing, how those different things work.
Yeah.
So to your credit, you've taken a path that learned all of that, so that you could then be successful at what you're doing, and that's pretty great. That's different.
Yeah, we're a big company. Like I mentioned, 90,000. But the cool thing about that is we're definitely not all federal space. We do a lot of really cool things outside of federal and outside the United States, which I can't even start to talk about those things, because I don't know everything. But you can start digging around what we do. And there was one thing I was looking at recently, that had a University of Oslo connection. So I was calling up our people in Norway. It's like, hey, do you know anyone at the University of Oslo? Yeah, we know these people, and we were doing this and blah, blah. So getting on the phone and talking to people that are half the world away about problems that the U.S. government is having. It's cool. It's to be able to kind of spread out beyond just your own little team.
That's really nice. Not every DC consulting firm has that extra flavor. There was somebody I interviewed on my podcast not too many episodes ago whose business is also like that, where they have a commercial side. And as you know, government's slow to adopt. They always have been, for a variety of reasons. A lot of them are security related, also making sure the product is, or whatever, or the methodology is more mature. We understand the risks better, right? We're very risk averse, not always jumping on the bandwagon. But because your company has experience in commercial where things are faster, when governments are ready, lo and behold, you can reach out to your contacts within your company and say, hey, yeah, we know a bit about that.
Yeah.
We did that like 2 years ago. Right? Welcome to the party, government.
Yeah. Well, I will give government some credit. They get a bad rap. But I don't think that's all true. I actually was talking to a former client of ours, who 30 years at state, retired, went into commercial, and is like, there's more bureaucracy over here than there ever was in the government.
It probably depends on your business unit and your leadership, right? There are some parts of there are parts of the State Department that are extremely bureaucratic, and there are parts of the Department of State, because I worked in a foreign aid agency, so I've met a lot of people in Department of State. There are parts that are extremely agile, extremely forward thinking. So yeah, it's a mix and match. Not every part of every agency's there yet, but you're right. There are some big forward thinkers. Look at the VA. VA's got whole artificial intelligence institute, which is amazing, right? It's great. So while other agencies are still scared of it and not wanting to.
What are those OTAs? That's a kind of a cool concept for them to bring in new technologies too. So I do there. It's fun and easy to say. Everyone gets a laugh. Oh, government, speed of government, and so on and so forth. But I do think they should get more credit than what they're getting, because industry and commercial space have their own kind of problems that bottleneck the ability to solve them.
Yeah, well, you threw out an acronym. Maybe some people don't even know OTAs. Like, there's people in government who don't even know about OTAs.
Yeah, other transactional authority, as things.
Yeah, right. So the other ways of contracting that get around some of our more bureaucratic or limiting functions of the FAR. There are clauses in the FAR that you could take advantage of, because everything's in the FAR. But there are clauses in the FAR that have opportunity for new technology, new methodologies of acquisition, which are pretty innovative. There's some really great forward thinkers who have looked at the FAR, know it inside and out, and said, "Oh, I can do this with it that I didn't realize I could do." And then everybody's like, "Oh, you could do that," and so those things kind of come out of those capabilities.
Yeah, the right progressive mindset.
So as you've gone through this career, what are some things what is something you've seen that if you wish we did it differently? It may be a big change, and maybe we're not ready for that change. So you're just kind of introducing, hey, I'm not even saying you should have the solution, right? But it's something we should relook at and possibly do differently.
This is not going to be very bold, but do you know who David Marquette is?
I do.
Oh, he's another classmate of my dad's, by the way.
Yeah.
So for those that may not know, he's all over LinkedIn. So if anyone wants to look him up, but he was a captain on a submarine. The short story. I'm going to really abbreviate this. I highly recommend people watch it, because there's a lot of background information I'm not going to give that adds a little bit more power to the story. But he was a submarine captain, got assigned to the lowest performing sub in the fleet, and he had to figure out how to make it better. And his basic approach is to push the decisions down to the level of the expert. It's to the person that's doing on a day-to-day basis. Let's let them make the decisions. He asked them what their intent is, like what do they expect to happen with this action, and if that makes sense, then it's yeah, sure, go for it, try it out, in a military response kind of way. But and I get where I'm going with this isn't necessarily to say that we have a problem with pushing things down to the right level, because I think people are actually power empowered to do things but don't know it.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess what I would do if I could change something, it's having a conversation. Everyone having a conversation with their teammates, with their bosses, with their the people they manage, around understanding, where the line is on those decisions, so that we don't just arbitrarily create bottlenecks, things that don't get punted on for who knows how long, because we're just waiting for someone else to do it. I think I what did I say just a minute ago? The progressiveness. It's proactivity in this case, like proactivity and decisiveness, I guess, is what I would like to see a conversation around, so that everyone could be proactive and decisive in their daily happenings.
Yeah, and knowledgeable that they are empowered, right, to be that way.
Right, because I see it every day, and this isn't a government thing. This isn't an industry thing. It's an everything thing. In every industry, every market, of people that assume someone else has it. So therefore, they're just going to I don't know. I think they got it. And then nothing gets done, because the other person's either too busy or actually doesn't know they have it. Right. Why isn't someone else making this decision? So yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a really great one. Yeah, I worked for one person in the military who was like that.
Yeah.
It's a rare person who would give, they see it as giving, a lot of people would see it as that leader giving up their authority, right?
Right.
Instead of empowering with their authority for you to make a decision. They still have the utmost responsibility of whatever it is you do. They are empowering you to make a decision with their authority, and then you just got to use it very wisely.
Right. It's like the racy chart kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
I'm responsible for this, but you're accountable for it, whatever,
Yeah. So that's a great idea. So what's next for you, or what's next for CGI? What's coming up in the near future?
Well, what's next is heading out to the cabin with some friends this weekend to play some Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And Nebraska plays their first football game Thursday night against the University of Minnesota Golden Gophers. So I'm excited for the football season to kick off. I'm excited to hang out with some friends this weekend. I'm sure we'll have a dram or two. And for as far as work wise, I don't foresee anything big changing. We're just going to continue to support our clients and for CGI's shareholders benefit, continue to try to grow the business and
Sure.
in a responsible way. But yeah, there's nothing new and really exciting, I would say, that's on the horizon there. It's just continuing to be a dad, a husband, a friend, and an employee of CGI, or a member, as we like to say.
Yeah, well, those are all good things to strive to be, right? So, well, I wish you well. I know you and I interact all the time, so we'll talk soon. But thanks again for coming on the podcast.
Thanks again for having me.